Hi, I'd like to call the meeting to order of the agenda of the Playground Working Group of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission, Thursday, June 8th, 2023, 8:45 a.m. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from May 11th. Does anybody have any changes from those minutes?
We have a quorum to be able to vote on it? Or should we wait on that item? How many do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 that can vote.
We have to actually.
Pam Garrity's coming on right now.
What?
I counted her.
Pam's on too.
I counted Sarah, Susan, Patty, Curtis, and Pam.
Do we need 5? We need to, I think we need to reconstitute some of the committee because some of the people aren't attending. So that makes that, because means that we can't approve, ever if those people don't come.
I agree.
Why don't we, I'm sorry.
I actually thought that the agenda, one of the agendas I sent had both the April and the May. So this one only says May. What does your agenda say?
May.
Yeah, I guess we left out the April one, but we will.
Well, why don't we, obviously we don't have a quorum anyway to approve the minutes. So
Pam, you sent the April with the attachments and we
but not
discussed
she didn't put it on the agenda.
Oh, okay. I was going to say we discussed it at the last meeting and it was just one minor thing that
So you know what? Just because we have such a beefy agenda for this meeting, why don't we don't have the quorum. Let's just shift that to next meeting and have both of them. And in the process, if you and I can work together to just check out who are our active committee members, because it'll make it easier to get a quorum if we have it. Okay. And if we need to add more people, I'm happy to, but we actually just recently added Sarah and Pam. So I feel like we have a good amount of people that are involved in the committee now. Okay. So the next item on the agenda, so that'll be moved to our next meeting in June, right?
But Susan, I mean,
July 13th, I'm sorry.
We can do, it's important to have meeting minutes posted. I don't know if these are posted, Pam, but just as draft. But when 2 or 3 more come on, we'll be able to do the meeting and then we'll be able to, towards the end of the meeting, we could just vote on it when 2 or 3 more come on, and then we'll be able to have both those.
Yeah, I'm just saying
posted.
We have 3 really beefy items, and if she doesn't even have it on the agenda to vote for the April meeting, April minutes, it doesn't matter. We're going to have to
talking about May. We want to look as current as possible so we don't get our hands slapped.
Okay, whatever you think. Let's just move though. So because I think we have a lot of items on the agenda. So Pam just sent out. We're up to the playground designs. The new video from the one design, was that from Emmy O'Brien?
Yes, I actually can play it if it let's
or
see.
Did people already watch it? I just don't want to.
Okay.
Put things on. I mean, did people
have 2 out of 3
video? What?
I watched 2 out of 3, the first 2.
How about you, Curtis? What did you think? Oh, you're on mute. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have not seen any video.
Okay. Do you want?
It basically straightened out the whole idea of that spiky, dangerous unit that we saw in the rendition anyway. But yeah, let's see if I can get it up here. Let's see.
If you could do one of them maybe quickly.
Yeah, that first one, because that was the one that had the spiky. The second one had a lot of examples throughout the United States of kind of cool playgrounds. So that was fun to watch, but it wasn't as applicable because a lot of it was big spaces.
Yeah, I gotta see. Here it's bringing up the screen that I'm not seeing. Files. Trying to find my desktop here.
Did you guys get to see the articles in the Parks and Recreation magazine also? They really talk a lot about what the trends are and what people are using to develop playgrounds around the country. And you might have missed it, Patty. I don't know if you were it's playing? Oh no, it's
not yet.
Just let me know. I'll stop talking. I'm just trying to build time and hopefully.
Susan, while she's pulling that up, why don't you highlight what the trends are?
Oh yeah, I'll do that right now.
Because that'll be on, we're being recorded, and that way anybody who's watching it can also hear what the trends are.
And I just found the video, so I'm watching the first one now.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
actually,
Is that the
she
one we
might
should
be-
watch?
He might be all
yeah,
set.
I
so-
just found it too. So let me see if I can do it.
But Pam, did you already watch it?
Yeah, I'm putting it up
No,
now.
Pam Garrity, I meant,
Oh.
sorry. She already got a chance to watch it already. So maybe there's no point if Curtis is already watching it and Pam's already seen it. Pam
I'm
Garrity.
watching. I've been watching it this morning, and I've got some of my kids watching it too, and they think it's awesome. That first one with
seeing it?
all the climbing stuff.
Can
I
you
just
see my
think that
screen?
I just think that right now, I mean, it's actually specified in the article on Parks and Recreation magazine that kids want the hype, they want that excitement. And I think they're so bombarded now with different things. Like we have to figure out ways to keep them engaged to what's in the playgrounds. And they said that sometimes to hire something 20 to 30 feet, they could see from afar, and it's kind of anticipatory to say, oh, I'm going to the playground, and and they're excited by it. And I'm sure it's the
And-
thrill of a hike.
Yeah, the physical challenge as opposed to a mental challenge on their iPhone.
Exactly. Very good. Thanks, Curtis. I mean, they say something that they like colors that are saturated, and that it really engages them toward more, play and stuff like that. They
I have
also
a-
talked about how it's more user-defined play, which is interesting, that they want to be able to decide what they're doing and have different options. So it's not like, oh, there's only one way to do a climbing structure or something. So I think those challenges, like what you see in the video, there's like endless options. You can go different ways. It's like a maze almost, right? And it all leads to fun.
Susan,
and-
Pam has a question.
Pam
Or-
Garrity. Go ahead, Pam Garrity.
I have a question about, so these 3 videos, the third one looks very small and young. What was that? Where did they propose putting that?
Well, there was a 2 to 5 area and there was a 5 to 12 area.
Right, that was considered for the younger, right?
The third video, yes.
Okay. Phew. The kids were like, that looks awfully easy. Okay, good.
No, but it's Darien, so they'll all be in the 5 to 12 anyway. It doesn't matter.
That's right. That's right.
But anyway, is there any feedback? Like, do people feel that's more favorable now that they've seen the video? Because I think everybody was like pretty scared when they saw the spiky version originally.
Well, I think it put some light on it anyway, better than the paper by any means. However, there is no, it's no handicap accessibility whatsoever, on it. Curtis, would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's obvious. There's no possibility.
Nothing to do. There's nothing to do.
But there doesn't have to be, right? As long as on the playground there are options for people who have that limited access.
Mhm.
We're going to be too constrained if we try to make everything wheelchair accessible or people with physical issues.
And
Well,
also,
I agree with that, but I also made sure that every vendor understood that there should be possibilities, right? So they should have designed with that in mind.
Yes, and I appreciate that. The truth is, though, other pictures, I'm trying to find other pictures that were sent this week. It would be, which one is it? Game Time?
Mhm.
Yes.
Game Time that showed the various pictures for 2 to 5 and then 5 to 12. There's an attempt made to show representation, but there's no understanding conveyed whatsoever for practical reality. So for example, there's nothing, if you look at the 2 to 5 itself, the second picture, has the ramp that has that big turn and then shows a child sitting there. I'm assuming it's some sort of active board, some sort of activity. I don't know many 2 to 5-year-olds in the accessible community who have kids managing their own wheelchair. I would say I've never seen one. So there's always a person pushing them, and it becomes quite large and quite bulky. So making those turns be nearly impossible, and they would block everything. It'd be like a traffic jam. There's no way to get around them, and they would have to back up. it's unwieldy. And maybe somebody could get in there. I mean, just think about a kid's stroller and just make it a little bit bigger in your mind. So they have the boy sitting in the wheelchair. Maybe somebody could push him in there and turn it around and can play a little bit. But calling this a truly accessible structure, I think, would be a mistake. Especially the ramp that goes to the right. Then what? Or to the left? They go in there and then what? They're just a log jam, and then the other kids hate them even more, right? So that doesn't really, that's not too impressive. And then the one for the 5 to 12 down, where is it? Down at the very bottom. So the long single ramp, we talked about this before. It's kind of easy in, but not easy out. It's like Roche Motel. Not a big area to turn around. And it's that same different angle on that same picture, but it's most likely that the person in the chair is going to be blocking the kid who's coming up on that stairwell. So even though they check a box, it's not really a particularly accessible, friendly solution. So I'm sorry to have to say that, because I don't want to be Mr. Naysayer, but it doesn't reflect the realities of how it works.
Thank you, Curtis. That's very important for your feedback. We appreciate it.
Are you
Happy to
all
help.
seeing my screen and seeing the shots there?
We're just seeing your folders.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna say, we
really?
don't see it.
Oh,
Curtis, I think I really appreciate your comments, because I really feel like you really think about the user that we're trying, especially someone that needs that accessibility. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to say that not all things are going to be entirely accessible. And if we're not going to do a good job, why say we're doing it and doing it in a way that doesn't work?
Right. So if you want to make it like
devote our resources.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are you still there?
So
I'm sorry, my screen got messed up.
so if you want to have an
devote our
awesome
resources
climbing
to other
structure,
things. Yeah.
if you want to have an awesome climbing structure, don't feel the need to somehow put a ramp in for
Yeah,
kids who
I get
can't
that.
climb.
Or put
Yeah.
something else that is truly accessible. Like, we had talked about, like, especially at McGuan, we talked about doing some of these interactive boards and stuff where, you have kids from different abilities, different heights can be reaching and playing, I think,
And I do love the idea of this, I like the idea where they were going, looking at the 5 to 12, where just thinking of my own daughter, she wants to be around the other kids, right? So being able to be on the structure with them, doing something, and be able to say, yeah, I was out there playing too. But just the way they designed it, it's just not enough space. They're not facing the right direction. But that's probably too much complexity to expect from these designers, right? They don't live it. So again, as long as the playground itself, swings are number one, because they take care of the vestibular thing at the same time, which is incredible. That, merry-go-round, amazing for the same reason. The bodies move, and it really helps the kids, because the kids who are typically in wheelchair have those motor issues that are improved by movement, right? So those two movement things are awesome. And if you had something that it helps improve fine motor, right? Like they show the boy here doing, or what we've had, freestanding things that you can move or turn and make noise. That's awesome. I wouldn't feel the need, and I would take the pressure off the vendors to put a ramp everywhere.
I appreciate that. That's really great. And we can, again, these are starting points for us. And it's because of your feedback that hopefully we'll get to the thing that works for what our group is, trying to make it as accessible and inclusive as possible when within reason, right?
Yes, terrific. Thank you.
Hey, Ruth, how are you?
Hi guys, good. Sorry,
Did you
this
get a
last
chance
meeting.
to look at the game time design and also possibly watch the video of the
Yeah.
spiky guy?
Yeah, I did, and I watched them with my kids.
Oh yeah, that's great. What did they think?
And I do have to say, I agree with Pam. Like, it came alive, right? Because at first I kind of just X'd it out right away, and I was like, "There's too many kids that use that equipment that it's not going to work well on." And I was impressed by the multiple layers. My daughter thought it was the coolest. Like, she loves climbing, so like in her mind, she was like, "That's super cool." At each layer, there's something different to play with. I asked them what would they, because one of them really was focusing on like the big slides, and one of them was focusing on the climbing. And I asked them, I was like, which one do you which one do you guys prefer? And their go-to was, the slides. They said that they really liked the idea of a slide. They like slides, but my daughter was like, is there a way to get both? And I laughed. But I felt like the designs, I picked up at the end of Curtis's. So I think you're talking about the game time one, correct? Is that with the Rams? Because I was going through all three of them, and I thought they each had really nice elements of parts of it, right? So I'm kind of torn because I'm looking at them all, and I think they all bring something really great to the table. But they all are somewhat need a little bit. We have to merge all of them, right? So my thing is, I did like the idea. At first, I ruled out the climbing one, that ME one. I thought it was there's too many kids using it in a small space, and there wasn't enough. But then I thought, well, after watching the video, like there actually is more to it. There's more depth. I just think it's something different, which we're not used to. I liked the miracle one through. I don't know who is that Creative Resources. I liked that idea. There's a lot of slides going on there. Again, we kind of go back to the idea that we talked about before with like when they're tight and bumpy, are the kids going to truly enjoy going down that slide? And I agree with Curtis with the ramps. There's a lot of ramps going on there, and I don't know if it's really the best use of the space. But that was the other one. Sorry, I'm always confusing who's who. And then the game time one is, I have them all open in front of me on my laptop. Yeah, I mean, I think that because we're also keeping some of our equipment, I thought, right? Like I thought that there were certain things that we were keeping.
Mostly in the younger area, Ruth, in the 2 to 5.
And are we keeping that big globe in the big section?
Yeah, we have to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought that's what we thought. So like the spinner that they're showing, is that just not really gonna stay there? There was one of them that big triangle climbing spinner. Was that just in there for space?
That's to reflect the globe.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, the kids' pick was the miracle one with the big slides. That was their favorite. I think the idea of the colors and it came to life for them. I personally thought the climbing one had a lot to offer, but I am keeping in mind, like there's so many kids that use this space. What has the most activities for all these kids? And I'm opening up the other one right now too, the game time one.
If I can add something to the creative rec, to Curtis's point about the ramp, that is something that we might be able to remove, because when I talked to the rep yesterday, like for instance, the spinner, if we were to get the same spinner that we have at Miguan, because of that would, you could roll onto that. That's more expensive spinner than they put in this design. So that is possible to be able to do something like that. And that might be a little bit more meaningful for that space.
And it balances out the cost, which you mean because of the ramps. So taking out the ramps and you put in the spinner. Yeah, I
Right.
think that's a great idea, Pam. Thank you.
I'm just gonna have Alyssa jump in because she just jumped on and I want to hear what she has to say. You need to unmute though, real quick. There you go. No,
Alyssa, you're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Can
That's
you
okay.
hear me? I'm having a lot of Wi-Fi issues, so I'm trying to know if you can't hear me. Can you hear me now? I'm having like horrible digital problem today. So I went through a lot of them. I just wonder, does the creative recreation ones always seem to be the ones that pop out at me first? But do we feel like this design is too similar to what we've already done?
It's taller and more robust, but I see it does have some of the same. Like the one at Miguan is only 2-story. This one's a 3-story.
Right. It
But
just
I agree.
seems like
There is
it's
a lot of similarity.
It's a lot. Yeah. And I feel like it jumps out to me just like it did when we were looking at the options from again. But I just wonder if we want to make sure we're doing something. Because I think originally when we were talking about doing the 3 playgrounds, we were talking about making sure that each of them had their own individual feel. So I think the one that was the O'Brien, the spiky, I know that everyone's been back and forth about their feelings on that one, but it's so different, and it gives, maybe not for this one, but I feel like we need to make sure that it has its own unique feeling and doesn't feel like just a bigger version of what we just did at McGann.
That's
I have a
fair.
question. Can we do two playgrounds differently? Because I agreed with that. Like, I thought the climbing structure was really cool, but then I like for the younger kids, I didn't really like their younger version. Like, can one do?
I think we should be able to personally, like, I don't think like at Playground by the Sound, we did Compan and Emmy O'Brien. So I think that as a committee, we need to say, what are our priorities and what works for the park? And you're right. I think it is nice to have different, because like everybody knows about the different parks in Darien and kids go to different parks for different reasons. And I feel like I don't want it to be the same thing, especially now when the kids get so jaded by, they need excitement, different things to keep them occupied. I'd prefer to do that. What did you think of the spiky climbing structure, Alyssa?
Well, initially I had the same feeling that everyone else did when I saw the photos, but when I saw the videos, my kids really love to climb. They love those types of things where they're going through the rope to kind of find their way, and they have options for so many kids to be on it at one time, which at a place like Cherry Lawn, which is always so crowded and there's always so many children, it's not like a slide where one kid could go on it at a time, or certain types of platforms where one kid at a time. These types of rope climbing structures, I've seen a lot of these in the Manhattan parks as well, where you have lots and lots, the bulk of kids, and they, I feel like from an adult perspective, it seems like, oh, but it's just climbing, but it keeps the kids occupied for a very long period of time, and it works on their strength, and it works on their balance, and and they get creative with it. And the way they set them up as well, I know some people had expressed like safety issues when we were originally looking at one of those options for McGann, but the way that they create them, like the one that they have at Waveney, it's done so the ropes are done so they kind of interlock, and so if someone were to fall, they can never fall from the top all the way to the bottom.
Got it.
They would slip maybe if it's doesn't have the coordination, but they're done in a very smart way so that they don't actually fall. They kind of can lose it, they get their bearings, and they get back up again.
That's great. Sarah?
So
Oh.
I liked the idea of something like that.
That's great. Thanks for your feedback. I'm going to jump. Sarah's on too, so I want to see what her thoughts are.
Hi guys, how are you? Apologies. I am having a hard time finding some of the playgrounds. I know Pam had sent them, and I don't know, it's just the way my iCloud is set up, or I'm just bad at it. So the one that I didn't get to watch the video yet, that I definitely found that email. But the one you guys were looking at when I hopped on that Curtis was going over, which one was that? Because
Game Time.
That's Game Time. Is that the one we had from the last meeting?
No, this is brand new. That's
what I thought. Okay, I did not get the attachment.
Sent it on May, I think 17th. I want to say I have the date somewhere.
Yeah, I found the email, and it's with his notes, right? Number 1, number 2, he's talking, he's giving his.
Oh no, that's from Creative Recreation. Those are his.
Oh, that's Creative Recreations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pam, can you?
So I apologize. I cannot find it. I don't know.
Game Time was sent on May 17th. And it was green and blue, and it looks pretty similar to what's already there, because it's the same vendor from the 2 to 5 area. I don't know if you see that in front of you.
Got it. Sorry.
Pam, do you want to resend it to her?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
Is there a fourth one by Burke? Am I seeing? So I didn't see that one before.
Yep.
All right, I'm just pulling up that one too. I didn't see that one before too.
I wonder if, and this is a suggestion from Pam Garrity too. I mean, maybe at the next meeting, or even we could pull a special meeting. Maybe if we all try to meet and have all the like spreadsheets right there, so we don't have to do this virtual.
I think, Pam, if you could bring, like, maybe have the vendor send us larger drawings, because people are seeing them in, their computer screen, which is very different. If they could provide us with larger drawings of some of the structures, I think it would help. And if they have color samples, that would help. Anything that we could touch and feel, like maybe the ropes, a sample of what the ropes would feel like for the Emmy O'Brien piece.
There, I just sent
it. Really, and I see Pam Garrity has her hand up, and she's being very. What's up?
Going back to, I had to go back to a May 8th email. They're very hard to find, these things, but after watching the video from O'Brien, one of the renderings that they send have both the slide apparatus and the rope apparatus. Is this a one or the other, or because their rendering shows both of them together? So would that be both of them in the older kids?
Yes.
So we don't have to pick who wants slides and who wants ropes, because we would get
Correct.
both of those. Oh, well, that's terrific. Okay.
Yeah,
And
so
then I
this is
wanted
why
to
it's
know,
helpful
do
to
we
do
have,
the in-person meeting in July if we
it was a little
can.
confusing. My other question is, do you have a list of the pieces that you are keeping from Cherry Lawn?
Yes.
Okay. And did
It's
you
just
send
the
that to
globe in
us?
the big area and the newer children's 2 to 5s piece that's closer to the front, to the right, is staying.
So like in the children's, the
The
younger
2
side, you know, those 2 bucket seats. In fact, you just sent the picture this morning
Yeah.
or recently of those 2 bucket seats. Are we keeping those or getting new ones? Because kids love those. But my children's comment about those is that that's the only reason why the older kids go into the smaller kids area is to use those bucket seats. And then it turns into, you know, a kind of a clog. So you could even take those bucket seats and move them to the older kid side, because they love those things.
Yes, we are considering keeping those.
Yeah, they don't look
Terrific.
like they're in good shape. They don't get a lot of wear and tear. So I think we should definitely consider that. Why don't we, since we have a lot of great options here. I encourage everybody to look at the Parks and Rec magazine because it does talk a lot about what the trends are. Also, Lori Bora, our chair of our commission, had already also suggested the big structure she had seen out west. So like we could think a little out of the box about different options. And if we can maybe meet in person, that'll really help further our discussions of what we want as a committee.
What
But
about an on-site visit and we could go through things at the gazebo?
yeah, why don't we do that? I would love
Because
to
then we
do
can
something on
walk it,
site.
see it, we can be showing.
And you could bring your kids, guys, if they're around, and we could see them in action. But I just think that having the plans on some level and some of the material would help a lot. We're at 9:20 and I'm just thinking that I feel like we kind of know where we're headed in terms of what our interests are. Why don't we go on to talking about the timeline? And because that's on the agenda too. Or should we go to the minutes? We'll do the minutes for Patty's favor, because there's the May 11th minutes. We can quickly approve those so they could be uploaded to our records. Has everybody had a chance to look at the May 11th minutes?
One error was I was not in attendance.
Okay, so we'll remove you, Ruth. Thank you so much for noting that. That is helpful. Anybody else? Any other changes? They're pretty straightforward. They're basically the agenda with some description of what was discussed. So, okay, can we have someone move to approve the minutes as amended?
Move it. I'll
Patty?
move the motion.
Who's seconding?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It looks it's unanimous. Thanks, Pam, for doing those. Okay, we're going to talk about the timeline for the Cherry Lawn playground. What were you do? You have some suggestions or ideas, Pam?
I wanted to highlight that because we may feel as if we've got a head start on this, but quite honestly, with shipping time and installation time and trying to get a spring 2024 build, we're going to need to make some decisions. I want to say by at least September to keep us ahead of the game, because at that point, then we need to start planning for Baker, because this is ARPA money and it also has deadlines on it. So we recently had a discussion in regards to the ARPA money, making sure that we actually have a plan in place. Right. So before that
that's
deadline.
fair.
So
We don't want to lose it.
Right.
So we would need to do everything by September. So we have a meeting in July.
Just a good goal, just to keep that in mind that, shipping time can still be an issue.
And this is more complex than McGuan. I mean, there's more pieces. There's 2 playgrounds. lot of moving parts, and, you know, we're gonna have to, as a committee, decide, are we gonna do it all at once? Is it gonna be the same vendor? Is it gonna be a separate vendor? I mean, it's much more complex than
Yeah,
McGuan.
I think
So,
September could be tight with people being away. I think I understand your goal, Pam. I'm just being realistic about it, but it's good to put that out there.
Right, I am too. I just think it's something to talk about because, you know, October is going to get us there too. Just want to make sure that we're understanding it, how quick it can go.
right, when do we need to spend the ARPA money by? 2026?
I believe it's 2026.
Yeah, and so, but you're right, you have to factor in Baker soon after that to
But
get
this
that.
is this is the most money. So
Yeah.
Right.
we have to be very thoughtful and.
Oh, yes, I
Right.
agree.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're also heading into summer, which is the time that people have their kids,
Mhm.
and people's time is more, you know, less time to do stuff like this. But I think that it might be helpful if people decide to use their kids as part of the committee.
Hey Pam, can I
know.
ask you a question? So you mentioned spring as a target, but we're putting in McGuan, so excited about it. We're putting in McGuan, you know, starting in June.
Right now,
Why, I'm just wondering why spring? Because do you want to have it in prior to summer?
You know what? It could be June as well. I'm just being mindful of like, oh gosh, we can't sit back and say we have plenty of time. Just want us to keep our eye on the timeline. That's all. So it could be a June build as well.
I think personally, I really think that if we can go before June, it's better, because I feel like with all the people with their kids, they're running around, you know, the park gets really utilized well in June and July, especially. August slows down. So it's something to think about. I mean, we could also consider doing it in August too. I mean, I hate to put that out there, but it does slow down for the town. And
At Cherry Lawn, the spring is packed. It's really, really packed. So that is something to think about. Maybe August is a better time. But I like your idea of keeping the eye on the ball, and then we'll just be a realistic timelines.
that's a great idea. But let's definitely, we know what we need to do as a committee, you know. The next few meetings are probably going to be pretty pivotal in terms of defining what our real wish lists are and stuff. Sarah, do you have something? I see your hands raised. Oh,
Muted.
You're
Sorry.
muted.
Sorry. Can we just go over the dates one more time just to make sure? And then is there any way we should consider adding in more meetings? I mean, obviously everyone travels and they're gone, but everyone can Zoom too. So even if you're wherever you are, right? I just don't know if that helps the process at all versus once a month where an hour, and then I don't know. I just food for thought to try to squeeze in more meetings if possible.
Ruth, did you have a comment on that? You just raised your hand.
Yeah, and also to piggyback that, to make it more efficient when we have our meetings, can we put together, it sounds like all of us are kind of getting lost in these emails, and from a work perspective, I'm bombarded with the personal matters, so I'm having a hard time truly seeing the big picture. Is it possible to maybe even get a PowerPoint together where everything's in one? I know we want to meet in person. I know everyone's schedules are changing, but I just feel like to make it the best use of our times, I spend a lot of hours going through and trying to find these emails. And then when I find it, I can't look at them on my phone. I have to be in front of my laptop. So it's making it hard for me to truly see what's going on. Like I didn't even realize I missed the whole one. So is it possible to maybe put together a PowerPoint or something where we can just go page 1 and then we can resource and be like, oh, everyone go to page 10 or something like that. I just feel like it might be easier
Yeah,
to see the
I
big
can
picture.
do that. I can do
Thank
that,
you. Okay.
Great idea, Ruth.
especially if we can't get everybody together in person. For
Sarah,
that.
you have a follow-up question? Or
Sorry, and then I don't know if I missed it because I was so late, but have we just are these all the designs from the different groups? Like do we have them all now? Is this it?
4.
Okay.
There's 4.
And then have we discussed already like we did last time where we do a Zoom call with the companies to like kind of give us a little more clarity and we can ask whatever the questions that we might have, or are we narrowing it down and then doing that?
We
Or not
haven't
at all?
done that yet because I think last time, I believe when we did that, we might have had some feedback, like what we really wanted before, because we want them to, I think we need to talk to them when we get the final designs. I feel like this is more like the preliminary design.
Right.
And we're
Okay.
gonna go back to them and say, oh, we really didn't need all those ramps. We didn't.
Okay.
And
Got it.
we worked too hard and it doesn't really satisfy our
Okay.
needs. So,
Okay.
so why don't we, so the next meeting, we could do something sooner. I'm open to doing one in another 2 weeks where we as a group can fine tune these designs and hopefully give that feedback to our vendors and say, hey, this is what we really like. Can you come up with your final, almost like a real estate thing, your final and best offer? And then after that, we can have each one come in and, like you said, Sarah, answer any particular specific questions that the committee might have, things like that. Is
You know,
that
give us an
something-
opportunity to narrow down too, if we don't want 4, if we truly want to, you know, only interview 2 or 3 rather than the 4 or 2. So
That's
Yeah.
how we did it. Yeah, Pam, that's how
Yeah.
you narrowed it down last time. So versus final and best offer, just kind of us, I think we all need to deep dive per Ruth's comment.
Yeah.
Let's get a PowerPoint together. Let's really be on the same page and go. I remember at one point even it was in last fall when we were going through colors, we moved around a bunch and then we were just kind of even sending emails and then talking about it. And that helped us narrow it down. So it feels almost like an organizational process is what we need to do to be better for us all to be discussing and giving them the proper feedback. So I don't want them to get frustrated like that one company that didn't even want to bid this year because they felt like they got the runaround from us. They're a loss, by the way, but because everybody else handled it. But thank you.
So why don't I work on the PowerPoint? And then, because this way, if those that can meet in person, great, we'll have that. But those that can't, that can come on hybrid and would have the PowerPoint. How does that
Yeah.
sound?
If we're gonna do it on site, it'll be
Try to work that out.
hybrid.
Oh, right. If you're at Cherry Lawn, right, that won't work.
Because I really do feel like the committee has to get on site and vision some of this stuff on site. I think I agree with Patty about that. So, you know, if they can't come on site with us that day, people can take whatever PowerPoints you have and go to Cherry Lawn, really, you know, give us the feedback that we can discuss as a group. And then that's what we do. Hopefully we can come up with a wish list. Then that meeting might be slightly longer than an hour, depending on what's going on and how much time people need. I think because it's such an important meeting, I'm willing to put a little more extra time on that one.
Hey, Pam,
So-
I have a suggestion. So if you could do the PowerPoint and organize the ones that, the 4 that have given presentations or, you know, have given designed. And then I'll do a PowerPoint of, I'm taking photos of like Mead, because many of you moms have talked about some of the items. So I'll do a PowerPoint of some of our peer towns that have done some unique things. So not even unique things, what the photographs from Mead look like, what the photographs, Sarah, I know there's one up north that you like. So if anybody has photographs from their favorite playground, if you want to just text them or email them to me, I'll lay those in. Because I think that's also helpful for us to look at. And then you all say, oh my God, we feel consensus, right? When everyone's agreeing on a certain particular climbing thing in a different area or slide. And that can be helpful as well. And then we can come back to those 4 people and say, this is the item that our group, these are the 5 items. Like I know we talked about swings, we talked about climbing things, we talked about monkey bars, right? We talked about ADA accessible twirling thing, circle thing. So then we really narrow in on the 5 most important items and then show them examples of what we like from different parks. So I'm happy to do that PowerPoint.
Okay, that sounds great.
Do the
Thanks,
other one.
Patty. That's awesome. Can we schedule another meeting before July then, July 13th for people? I mean,
Graduation's the 13th?
14th you mean for high school?
Are you
Are we
talking
in
about
July or June?
June or July?
It's June 14th.
No, when are you
How
talking about doing a
graduation?
meeting, June or
How about
July?
the last
I'm
week
thinking
of
June because we already have a July meeting on the 13th.
Susan, how
and-
about the last week in June? Is everybody here?
June 29th.
No, Alyssa's.
Yes.
No, I'm going to be in Barbados, so I wouldn't be able to zoom
We
in.
could
for
take
that.
your
I'm gonna be with my
feedback,
husband's
you know, like
family,
we
so that'll be-
suggested.
Okay.
That's fine. You said June 29th?
The week of June 26th is the last week in June. That
Yes.
will give me enough time to prepare whatever I need to prepare.
Okay.
So either a Wednesday or, midweek is nice for those that work, because if you're going away, sometimes people are like a long weekend or some being
Yeah.
mindful of people's time. So maybe the Wednesday, the 28th, if everybody's around.
Yeah, I'm free after 8:45 that day. No, you're no good, Ruth?
No, I work 9 to 5 that day. We're in person with, I can't,
So
but Tuesday, I
you
could
want
do
to pick a
Tuesday.
day and
Could you do
keep-
Thursday, Ruth, the 29th?
Yeah, I could do the 27th or the 29th in person.
Why don't should we try the 27th? Because like Pam was saying that the Thursdays are hard if people want to do. And that Thursday before is going to be the July 4th weekend going in. So I think the
I can also make the
27th
27th.
might be better. What? Go ahead.
27.
27th works for me too.
Okay, why don't we do that why don't we say 8:45? Just to get a date, because I think it's
Is
important.
this the
that-
one at Cherry? On
Yeah.
site?
Let's do that on site at Cherry. And Pam, if you don't mind, if they can get you whatever they can get us, samples of color, even brochures, I don't know.
No, I can do a blow up. We'll get a large color print of not everything, just so
No,
they're-
just what you think is a great overview of it, because I
Right.
think that's going to be helpful to the committee in terms of
Yeah.
visualizing and color suggestions. And the other thing we had talked about was maybe even it'll be really helpful for us to sit there and think about if what we do in terms of pour and play and accessibility while we're on site,
Mhm.
like how much can we actually do? I don't know if when they did the plans, if they factored in how much pour and play they factored in, because I think that will definitely influence how much equipment we end up with. So I think that's something to make sure that our vendors are aware of that.
Oh, each one of them was mindful of the pour and play. That's why
Okay.
there's not a full pour and play surface. It's
Yeah, no, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just go over that thoroughly. That's really important. Okay, last item on the agenda. That's great. Thanks, Pam, for keeping us on, time and everything. So number 5 is update on the picnic grove and installation of the fence.
yes.
Did I give a report to everybody? I can't remember if I did that. Did I send that report to everybody about what we discussed? I feel like I did. About what happened oh God.
About the picnic grove.
Yeah,
The shade structure?
Yeah, you
I
did.
think I did write
did.
something about that, but
Yeah,
now
you did.
I'm second guessing myself. After we went, I
No, you
wrote
definitely did, Kathy.
Okay. Anyway,
Susan.
we met as a group, Patty, Sarah, Pam, and I, and we kind of looked at it for a long time, and we came up with this idea that we considered putting the picnic area closer to the baseball fence, I'll call it, onto the left of the pathway as you walk into McGuan, but we felt it was too close to the field, and if we put umbrellas and things, it would get very distracting or a shade structure. So we decided to move it over to the right, in that area where we were thinking of us all doing a fence so that the parking kids wouldn't be running into the parking lot. So we discussed putting a post and rail fence along there with some landscaping and possibly putting some picnic tables and other things there, because we thought that was a good spot. I mean, it's not perfectly flat, but it's a gentler grade and could accommodate a few tables there. So, do you guys, are we in
Pam
agreement?
already has 4 tables there now. There's even
Mhm.
more from the last time we were there. So Pam, thank you so much. I went over yesterday and the same ladies that I had interviewed, the nannies, it was funny. I said, are you happy with the additional tables? And they said, thank you. Please tell the lady at Parks and Rec, thank you. So I'm passing that on.
Yeah,
the
I
one
did do
thing-
a write-up on this, by the way.
Yeah.
I
The
sent
one
it
thing,
out to
Susan,
everybody.
that I think we have to be conscious of, because Pam was presenting the idea of like and Pam, you even sent photos, I think, of it, right? Of the shade
Sails.
structure that would almost be like a big clam claw or something over it, which is unique. Remember, our ground 2 things we have to be thoughtful of. The ground goes off a little bit. Remember that it kind of goes down a little bit. So we'd have to have it a little bit up from that right side. The other thing is those trees are starting to really grow. And so we also talked, should we need to move it a little bit higher up from where the post and post rail fence will be, because if we have that post rail fence and then there's two, I can send you photos, there's 2 trees right there. So
Yeah.
it would need to be above that, but they love the idea of additional shade. That's the thing they kept saying, shade, shade.
So Pam, did you get feedback from the Lions Club and
Right, so let me give a quick overview.
okay.
Lions Club and the Calvi family. I understand the relationship a little bit better now. They have a sign there. So when you see the sign that says Lions Club / Calvi Family Playground, one would think that there was a large donation to the playground in order to have that sign there. I did anyway. But the relationship is not that. It is that the Calvi family donated that strip of land that has the Challenger field and the playground on it. Calvi family donated it to the Lions Club. And then years later, the Lions Club sold it to the town of Darien. And so somewhere around 1999, that sign was placed there, I guess, in gesture of allowing the town to buy the property. So I reached out to the Lions Club because we were doing this new installation that, wanting to know whether they still wanted to be, have a partnership with having the sign. And they do indeed, they're very, very much want their sign to stay. I just indicated that really should be some sort of partnership because I felt that there was some money that was donated, but that's not the case. Anyhow, I did meet with him, the president of the Lions Club, and mention the 2 ideas. That's why we're talking about these ideas, just so that we can see whether or not they want to financially put some money into it and keep this kind of relationship with the town and the playground. Roger, the president, was all over the fence. He thought that was like, that's easy. That's a yes. He's all over that. So that seems like a no-brainer. Tonight they have a meeting and he's going to mention the fence along with the idea of a picnic grove with a shade structure. So his feeling right away on the shade structure, which I can understand because he says he has a few at his residence, but he said they tend to get moldy and then they don't look very nice after years. And it was interesting because the ones at Weed Beach that we have over the playground have not fallen to that type of, mold or anything. And it could be that it's in full sun, it's at the beach. Sometimes when there is shade, and to Patty's point, the trees get bigger, provide shade. That is something to think about. So anyway, they're going to bring it back to the Lions Club to decide whether they think that's a good idea and to move forward. So it's not a guarantee.
Sounds great. Thank you for the history. That's really helpful. That's where that came from, that naming opportunity. But at a minimum, it would, if they could do the fencing, it would definitely enhance the space because we had talked about from a safety standpoint, not having kids run into the parking lot there. And there would be a 3-foot median there so that people could walk along that same space and get to the playground without hitting the street if they parked in front of that area. So hopefully it's safer. The shade structure would be lovely. It would be a nice to have, as you mentioned. But it's also a sunny spot. So if we do get something, it would be great. But again, those trees will start to grow. And by the time we're done building everything, maybe they will have covered the space we need. Haha. Anyway, feel like it's been a long slog. That's really helpful. Do you guys have any feedback? Go ahead, Alyssa.
Just one thing I happened to mention, I was talking to some of the women. I was at a PTO board meeting for homes last night, and I mentioned something about it because they had said what's going on with McGann. I was giving them some updates. Yeah. And I had said something about the idea of a fence versus a shade. But before I even had a chance to bring it up, they were like, McGann, you're going to do some shade, right? And that was the first thing that they said. And I said, well, there's potential for some shade or a fence. They said they honestly weren't concerned about they said the way cars pull in, they had never felt like there were issues with the kids going because the cars pull up. And no, they said they never felt that the kids were unsafe. But the one thing they really stressed was like, it would be great to have some shade there because it's so hot. But I know with the new pour and play, it's not going to be the same as that black. So that alone will.
It is the hot playground, though. They're right, by the way.
It's
They're
hot.
not. They're not.
Yeah,
It's not
but
an invalid point, by the way. But I
Yeah,
think
just so
that
you know, but that was just, it was
financials-
just funny that we're talking about this because that was exactly what they said initially when they talked about that playground.
How old were their kids, Alyssa?
they're in
Various,
elementary school, right?
so
What
elementary
age?
school and then some still preschool.
Okay,
I guess the other issue is that the shade structure is going to cost a lot more than the fencing, to be honest with you. So we're talking financial situation too. And Pam and I were looking for a way to kind of keep the name in play without having to do something entirely, because we need to change. We can't be the playground named after them at this point because the money is going to be from ARPA. So it's a different, so we're looking for a way to keep our past donors or, connections from being offended by what we're doing in the future. So that's part of the reason we were looking for ways for them to support and be present in the playground. But let's be creative about that shade structure because it sounds like we do need
Yeah, just
something
food
and
for
it'd be great
thought. Yeah.
to give them.
Susan, can I ask you a question? So from what you, just to be clear, so then, because Pam, that was really important, the information you gave us, that it wasn't a donation of money. And in fact, Lions Club made money selling it to the park. So it's a whole different gig now. We're thankful for it. We're thankful to the Kelvey family as well. But so if they were to do a fence, we would put a sign, a little plaque or something on the fence, and that would take the sign away from what's in the ground there now. Is that what you're saying? Because if we leave the sign in the ground now, then it's not an issue. But are you trying to move? Is that your concern? Or we're still talking about it?
We're still talking about it.
Okay.
It seems to me, and now that I've met with them and I've been in touch with them, it's a
It's on your
sensitive
radar.
issue and I'm trying to play nice
Yeah,
because I see how important it is to them.
yeah.
The sign is really aged. It's really not that lovely anymore. It's been there a long time, but it doesn't have to be moved, and that's something that this committee can work on and talk about.
Okay.
But the sign isn't current to what we're pulling out every piece of equipment there, and it's the playground. It's not saying I guess we should be making sure that the naming opportunity is appropriate for what we're doing, especially as Patty pointed out, it was a paid property for us. So, but at the same time, we appreciate the relationship because there is a good relationship. So I think that redesignating the picnic area as with their name is a nice thing to do. And that's why the fence kind of delineates that picnic area. That's why the fence is so important. Not that we need to necessarily put a fence up, but it delineates a nicer area. And I don't know, as a donor, I'd like to see something like that.
Yeah.
Versus oh, here are a bunch of picnic tables. We'll just call it the picnic area, your name picnic area. Do you
But
see what I'm
most of
saying?
the picnic tables are to the left right now. So I think we do
Or
need
we
to
took
give,
benches, whatever we call it. It's if
Yeah.
people could put like blankets down. I'm just saying it's just a nice area that you're delineating. That's why but we can go back and revisit it. I'm okay with that.
yeah. I mean, the state, no one from the state and ARPA is going to demand a sign, just to be clear. So we're not going to offend anybody for us not doing it, but I hear what you're saying.
But this is
And I
also
think we need to
future
just
stuff,
give it all
Patty, because
more of a think.
the
Yeah.
next 20 years, when this gets redone, it's like, oh, why is that name there? Are we obligated to keep that name there? So now we're perpetuating something that doesn't
Yeah.
need to be
And
perpetuated if it doesn't. Do you
so
see
what I'm
saying?
hearing is that you want to really, you almost want that sign in the area, not in front of the playground, but where people will be sitting and congregating for their lunch or.
Well, that sign
by
today
the shade.
says Lions Club / Calvi Family Playground.
Oh, it does say
It
playground.
does
It does say
playground.
playground. It doesn't say land. It says playground.
Oh.
So that's why
I think
I'm
we're
very
trying to
sensitive.
reestablish another area.
It doesn't match what the new intent is for that space.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's what my point is.
Yeah.
And now that Pam said that space was actually purchased, that makes it even harder for me to say, let's keep everything as is in the status quo.
Yeah.
Because
So
let's say someone says, I want to do not ARPA money, I want to redo the whole McGuan playground, then are we going to be stuck with this name that we need to carry forward? So we have to be crystal clear about what the future holds too.
Yeah.
So we're-
Susan, two things. One is let's wait to see what they come back with. So that,
Okay, I'm fine with that.
and then I have to jump because I have to be at Highland
Okay,
Farm.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
We're done. We're 2 minutes over. Sorry about that. We got caught up more longer than I thought. Pam, Gary, do you have one last thing to say? You get the last word.
Sorry, quick question. I saw the picture of the new playground coming soon sign for
Yes.
McGuan. Is that something that I can I post that on Moms of Darien just to get the word
Excellent.
out? And do
Love
you
it.
have is there a specific date as to when this is starting so that I can also add that so that the moms know, okay, starting this specific date, I have to find a different spot?
The week of June 19th.
Hopefully.
Okay, so if I say June 19th, that's close enough.
Approximately June
Approximately.
19th.
Just say
Throw in the word
mid-June.
approximately.
Pam, say mid-June. Don't give actual dates because then people are like, I was here on June 15th and nothing was happening, or June 19th. So
Okay, mid-June.
mid-June's fine. And then we also talked about doing a opening party at some point. So maybe some of the committee members can help with that and jump on. You know, we talked about doing different things to keep it exciting. Anyway, we're a little over, so I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you guys very much. I look forward to see you guys on the 27th at 8:45 at Cherry Lawn. But Pam will send out that information and so will Patty, and hopefully we can start narrowing down what we want at Cherry Lawn. Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you,
guys. Have a
Susan.
great
Thanks,
day.
Pam, for all the info.
Bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy week. Stay safe.